Welcome along to Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden here. And Man in the Mirror is your weekly podcast fix of all things fragrance, grooming, skincare. And each week I talk to a male guest about their life, their work, about self-image, self-care, and what the guest really thinks about the man that looks back at him in the mirror. I consider myself really lucky, actually. I just get to meet so many interesting people doing this podcast, and last week was absolutely no different. I went along to a Meet the Perfumer event at Harrods. I was kindly invited by the PR agency and the distributor, and I got to meet a brand founder called Arnaud Poulain, who is the founder of a brand called Les Eaux Primordiales, which translates roughly as primordial waters. And I knew a little bit about the brand, I have to say, but not a huge amount, and certainly not very much about the man himself. And first of all, it was fascinating to hear him talk as he was interviewed by my friend Suzy at the Harrods event. But then also I was lucky enough to spend another hour with him recording this podcast. So I think you'll hear when we have this conversation, an absolutely fascinating man, and fair to say he wouldn't be someone that I'd get to meet normally. And he has this really winning combination of kind of engineer, so he has that sort of science and engineering and sort of practical background, married with a real artistic sensibility, and as he said himself, he's a real dreamer. And some tragic things happened in his childhood, and he lost a parent, and I think that made him redouble his efforts, and he worked harder than anybody else. And all of this we'll talk about in our conversation. But suffice to say, an absolutely fascinating man. I think his personality and that combination of kind of engineering and a practical side with beautiful fragrance and dreaming about what the possibilities of perfume can be has created this really, really interesting brand. Arnaud also tells me about the brand headquarters, a chateau basically in northern France. I think that the translation is a domain, which is a chateau and the grounds within it. But Arnaud has created almost an atelier, really. There's everything to do with the fragrance happens there, along with carpentry and any kind of metal work to do with making point of sale. They do the bottling. It's the whole piece happens in what sounds like an idyllic location and a chateau in northern France. And you'll also hear from our conversation how that happened, which is mind-boggling, really. And the amount Arnaud has managed to fit in within I think he's in his early 30s, is quite incredible and puts me to shame. But I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. It's me, Hayden Williams, talking to Arnaud Poulain, who's the founder and artistic director of fragrance brand Les Eaux Primordiales. So here we go. Welcome along to Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden Williams here. And as I said in the introduction, I've spent the morning in Harrods. I had the great pleasure of hearing from Arnaud Poulain, who is the founder and artistic director at Les Eaux Primordiales. He was talking to the press about the brand and about his journey so far, and I'm delighted to say he's joined me on Man in the Mirror today. Hi, Arnaud. How are you?
Good morning. Nice to meet you. Very happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you very much for agreeing to take part and for agreeing to tell me a bit more about the brand. And I learned so much about the brand this morning, and I must be honest, it wasn't a brand I'd seen the name, but it wasn't a brand Les Eaux Primordiales that I knew too much about beforehand. I mean, I guess if we cover off the very basics, and for people who are not as familiar with the French, what does the name mean, Les Eaux Primordiales?
So Les Eaux Primordiales come from the famous writer of novel Jules Verne, and Les Eaux Primordiales it can be translated by primordial waters.
Yes.
So
the beginnings of life.
Of life, yeah. So in the deep sea, on the you have the first sign of life with the first plant, first fish, and after the evolution, So the waters are necessary for the life.
And as you explained this morning, you have such a fascinating combination of attributes. I think that there's obviously the artistic side with perfume, but also an engineering background. It'd be great if you could tell me a bit more about your life before the brand. What were you doing before Les Eaux Primordiales?
So I was born in the north of France, in a small city called Arras. And when I was young, I grew up in the countryside with my grandparents, and they was farmer. So I had the chance to grow in the countryside, big fields with my grandparents and my family. And my father was working in metallurgy industry. So I had the chance to share my time with my father in the artisan of metal, my uncle artisan in the wood, so carpentry, and my grandfather was farmer. So I learned in this at school. So I learned mechanics, electricity, but I was dreamer, and my father said because unfortunately, my mother passed away when I was young due to the cancer of nose. So it's a particular cancer. And
how old were you, Arnaud, when your mother passed away?
So it was I was very young. But because of that, I'm actually more strong. And I affirm myself because when you are young and you haven't your mother next to you to help you to be confident.
Yes,
you need to affirm you,
and that's quite common. You hear that quite often of people who lose one or other parent. That they have to find strength from themselves, and it often gives them more of a resilience in it.
Exactly, and my father it's for another epoch. So
and he had to work, presumably.
He worked a lot because he needed to win money for my sister, me, for the family.
Yeah.
So it was not with us, and so I was more with my grandparents.
And did you become more independent, do you think?
Yeah, and I was not very good at school because I am an ADHD. ADHD,
right?
Exactly. So it was very difficult for me to be concentrated at school and to learn like the other children.
Right.
So I was out of the box.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why my surname was the dreamer. And when I discovered the books, for example, Jules Verne, I say, okay, it's a big dreamer. And it's because of his dreams that he realized his life. And for me, it was an inspiration. So I decided to listen me and to listen my intuition and realize my dream because of my intensity of work.
Yes.
Like my grandparents, they dedicate their life.
So you worked hard, yeah. And you got into engineering originally.
So yes, after the basic diplomas, I learned electricity, robotics, and automatism.
Is that what you did? Did you do that at sort of university level, or did you teach yourself?
No. But at university, yes, it's not a big degrees. In fact, it was to make pleasure to my father,
right?
Because
what he wanted for you.
And my mother, unfortunately, she was not in life to see.
Yeah.
But homage to her, it would be a dream for her to see his son, a dreamer son, to realize this kind of basic diplomas.
So part of it, I suppose, was you wanting to do what your parents maybe expected of you at that point.
It's just it's an homage to
a tribute.
Yeah. So I stopped at 21, and because I met a guy, he was in army, and one day he discovered perfume industry, and he explained me his job, and he was in charge of Interparfum.
Yes,
of many brands.
Distributor, yeah.
And he offered me a book of Jean-Claude Ellena, Le Parfum. And
seminal, very famous book about the industry.
Exactly. It's for me the
Bible,
the master of perfumer. And it was very interesting for me because he realized his dream and his life at the age of 40. And he studied perfume and he became perfumer very late.
Yeah.
And he entered at Hermès very late. So I say, okay, I have 21. Maybe I can be a perfumer. So I did.
21's not particularly old anyway, is it? I mean, there's still plenty of time to make changes.
In fact, when you are a child, you can dream.
Yeah.
And when you are adult, you can't dream
You're
because
discouraged from,
you need
go down
to
a certain path.
enter inside the real life. And real life is without dream.
Yeah.
And regarding me, I decided to have a reflection like children with dream, but with the intelligence of adults.
Yeah.
And it's the adult at the service of the small child. So,
and it seems like and we know that it's the case now, but it seems like a very powerful combination of your scientific to craft engineering background married with this creativity and this desire to dream. So was this inspiring that you thought, I must enter the fragrance industry? Did you want to, was the first thought, I want to start my own brand or I want to work for someone else? Or
the first idea was when I discovered this new job with Jean-Claude Helena. I said, okay, I will dedicate my life to perfume because I found a universe that seduced me a lot and passionate me. And I said, okay, I will use perfume to realize my dream. So I'll be at the service of perfume, and perfume will help me to realize my dream and accomplish my life.
Yeah. So you were, I guess, humble enough to know that you still had to learn so much about this new world that was a new industry to you.
Yeah.
What kind of jobs did you have?
Totally new industry. So at the beginning, I learned with Amelie Bourgeois. So I met her at the school 5e Sens.
Who is a perfumer.
A perfumer. In 2008, when I entered in the 5e Sens school, the girl in charge of the olfaction was Amélie Bourgeois, and she was my teacher during 1 year. And after 1 year, she proposed me because she comes from the north of France. We have the same childhood.
Yes.
So she proposed me to help me to become perfumer without easy class school,
without having to go to some of these bigger, official perfume school.
Normally, EasyCla is 5 years.
Wow.
And you learn marketing, you learn different things. But in fact, I dreamed about become perfumer, create only perfume, and not marketing, etc. So I moved from the north to Paris, and I arrived in Paris in 2009. And my first job was to manage Byredo, a new brand.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
I guess it was right at the beginning, though. So
at the beginning of
the
play
for
2009, there is 2 new launches, Byredo and Francis Kurkdjian. And now
look at them now.
2 big brands.
What did you do for Byredo?
I was in charge of the corner at Le Bon Marché.
Right.
During 6 months, and after 6 months, I was in charge of the commercial part for France. And
it's amazing that. I mean, obviously, it was a new brand, but it seemed like a lot of trust to give someone who was brand new.
Yeah.
So you must have. I mean, I'm sure you were very impressive.
Very, very small.
That's a great faith to give into you, isn't it?
In fact, I love this brand because it was like a rebel brand.
Yes.
Chanel proposed me a job. I refused Hermès, and I accept Byredo because it's totally out of the box. And
you connected with that brand a bit more.
I had the chance to meet Ben Gorham at the beginning of Felice Blanc, and after I became famous.
Yeah.
But when I was working for him, it was really nice. it was a small brand. No people want Byredo. They want Fracas Robert Piguet. They want Chalimar. And I convinced one by one the consumer to taste Bal d'Afrique, to taste Gypsy Water. The brand grew very, very big.
And you could learn with the brand. So you were learning and developing too.
I learned. It was a very nice train for me because I had the chance to work for a small brand and grow very big and in niche industry. So I discovered a niche industry and how to make a perfume, how to make a brand, how to work, to communicate. And after 5 years, the brand was selling to a big group, Sick.
Yeah.
And at this moment, I decided to create my own brand.
Wow. It's so interesting, isn't it? You talked about the classical perfumer training and all those 5 years in the different departments, but you almost had that experience on the job, as we say. Working for Byredo, you could learn about sales and marketing and how it all fits together.
In fact, I was working for a distributor, and in my portfolio, I had Byredo, but a lot of brands, Amouage, Marc-Antoine Corticciato, Parfum d'Empire, Miller Harris.
Yeah.
And
you got to smell lots of different brands.
So different.
And then you wanted to make so you then decided, I'm ready to, you must have had some ideas about what you wanted.
In fact, you are never ready.
Yeah.
But in my head, I say, okay, I think after 5 years, I'm ready to launch something small. At the beginning, I was working on candles because I'm not very confident on me. And one day, a friend say, Arnaud, you will not create candles, create perfume. So I decided to try, and I launched 5 perfume. And my first shop was Colette, a famous conceptor in Paris.
Yeah.
And she gave
Great place to start.
Yeah, it's super nice. And she gave me the opportunity to create an exclusive perfume called Couleur Primaire,
which I had the pleasure of smelling this morning. Like a kind of heightened version of clean laundry, but beautiful, very, very well done.
Beautiful clean scent with the natural ingredients, so it's very popular.
Yeah, and is that still a popular fragrance in the range now?
Yeah.
And you talk about Les Eaux Primordiales as an autobiographical brand. I mean, what do you mean by that, Arnaud?
In fact, it's autobiographic because the brand, it's like a novel of my life.
Yeah.
So it's explained, for example, an homage of perfumes that I created in homage of my grandfather, that it took time to shave every day before going to the fields. And I say, Papi, why you are doing that? And he say, if I die, I need to be perfectly shaved, clean, to be ready, to face God. So
you're very clean shaven as well.
Yeah.
We can come on to all of this, but the first thing I noticed about you is a very sharp, clean shave. So you must shave every day.
Yeah,
to be ready.
Yeah, to be ready. I hope so.
It's a long time.
But I'm ready.
And it would be great if you could tell me a little bit, because I'm quite new to the brand, but there's some different. There's 4 different lines. It ranges within Les Eaux Primordiales.
Yeah.
Would you mind just explaining the sort of the basis of the different ranges?
Yes. So at the beginning of the brand, I decided to create my first 6 perfume, and I called this collection Super Classic. It's classic at the service. In fact, I like tradition.
Yeah.
I like tradition for my look. I like tie.
Do you wear a tie every day?
Yeah.
Do you?
Every day. And I like to shave, to
style your hair in a certain way.
Style your hair, etc. So I'm very traditional, but I like the future. So for me, when I imagine Les Eaux Primordiales, it's tradition. It's tradition and modernity.
Yeah.
So I create perfume inspired by the tradition. So beautiful Iris Palladium, Abstraction Raisonnée, beautiful Vetiver, Couleur Primaire, It's half floral, but very much.
So there's a twist.
A twist.
Yeah.
Always the modern twist
Yeah.
with a traditional base. So it's super classic line. The second line is super critic. So super critic is a process for distillation of flowers. So it's a name for a collection dedicated to flowers.
Right.
So I deliver a personal interpretation of what is the smell of rose, of gardenia, of mimosa, of tuberose.
Smelled some of the rose ones this morning in Harrods, and yes, beautiful and very, very distinct. Even within the different rose ones I smell, they're very different. They're obviously
unexpected. The key word of this collection is unexpected. My personal interpretation of what smell rose, it's black chai tea, so cardamom, black pepper, pink berries, infused in a black tea with some petal of rose and vanilla. It smells that.
Yeah, that was fabulous.
The third collection is super fluid. So it's a fluid with superpower.
Right.
So it's perfume dedicated to resins, to woods, to spice, strong perfume. And the last collection we launched last year is extract. So it's supermassive.
Supermassive. Makes me think of that Muse, Supermassive Black Hole song. And we got to experience Ambre Supermassive this morning, which is the new fragrance.
Ambre Supermassive is our last launch.
Yes, Ambre Supermassive that's in Harrods.
Harrods, yeah.
Yeah, which is fabulous. Yeah, it's sort of taken to another level, but again, quite unexpected, isn't it? There's some different things going on in there.
Yes, it's a different approach because I'm not a classical student of perfume. So my vision
about like burnt pineapple, wasn't it?
Yeah, roasted pineapple.
Roasted pineapple, yeah. Just really
with cinnamon and amber, beautiful amber, sandalwood, cedarwood, vanilla. So it's a classical amber, but with a lot of twisted note.
I think it doesn't need my approval, but the fact that it's in Harrods, and I think the fact that it's extrait strength, which is quite popular at the moment, to give it extra power, longevity, I can really imagine it doing so well. It's like it's gorgeous. And you work with Amelie Bourgeois.
Yes.
So you mentioned her already as someone that taught you originally, but now you work with her kind of as a partnership, as sort of two perfumers, a yin and the yang working together.
Yes, in fact, it's very interesting because I have the same vocabulary to her because she was my teacher. So it's very easy to explain to her what I want to smell, what I want to create, because I use her vocabulary. So it's really easy. And the vision of a woman and the vision of a man combined, for the best is for me the best solution.
And it's interesting. I mean, I've spoken many times on the podcast to I've been lucky enough to talk to some perfumers and sometimes to brand founders, and there seems to be a traditional way that we can understand where that works, where perhaps the brand founder might come up with an idea, talk to different fragrance houses, choose the perfumer, and then have that relationship where ultimately they will decide when it's ready, but they work in partnership. Here, Arnaud, your relationship with Amelie seems to be slightly different in that you also have a perfumer background, so you're working together. It's not just a case of you evaluating and saying yes, this is ready. You're working in tandem on fragrances, which is a really unusual approach.
Yeah, it's totally different. And in fact, behind all big perfume, I don't know, for Paco Rabanne or Chanel, it's always one guy signing the formula, but sometimes it's 5-10 people was working on this formula.
Yes.
And I think all people normally be mentioned for this perfume. So all perfume of Eaux Primordiales, the 25 fragrance I created, was realized with Amelie. Flair, of Studio Flair.
And do you think that will carry on in that same way, that you just want to work with Amelie and just be the two of you?
Yes, and we have the same vision, we have the same world, we have the same childhood, the same socials. So
yes, yeah. So she lost a parent as well.
Yeah.
She lost her father.
Yeah.
I'm always really fascinated by that relationship. And I speak to so many people, you know, whether it's a founder and a perfumer or someone working closely in a company. And I love it when it's about, as much as about the science and the art and the creativity, it's also about that human connection and you connecting with someone and finding someone that you love working with and that understands your vision. It must be a great feeling when you have someone who's on your side.
You combine talent.
Yeah. And it makes the two parts make a bigger whole almost.
And the vision, for me, is very important to have a mixed team. So it's a girl and a man, and we have not the same tools. So.
I'd never thought about that before, and you mentioned that this morning as well. I think it's that's a really fascinating take on, because of course smell is subjective anyway. I would smell things differently to you, but actually it could be quite useful to have a female perspective on everything and on the hormone, etc. It's totally different. Look, we're going to return to talking a little bit more about Les Eaux Primordiales, and we're certainly going to talk about the Primard, the chateau that you have for the brand in northern France. We'll come back to that. But as always on the podcast, I love to find out about the guests' morning and evening routines and maybe some products that you like using that have found their way into your regular routine. So, I wonder about your bathroom cabinet, Arnaud. You're very, mentioned already, very sharp, sharp dresser, clean shaven. There's definitely an aesthetic going on. So what about some of the products that you use? Have you got a kind of ritual of regular products?
Yeah, I don't remember the name of my foam, but every day I use a cream for shaving.
Yeah.
And after I use a Clarins product. What
kind of razor do you use?
Five blade, because it's more modern. It's easy. And
a Clarins, like a balm, post shave.
Post shave, yeah. Hydrating the skin and the double serum, so it's really nice. And every day, because when you have barb, maybe you use a bit here for hydrating, but when you are shaving,
it makes the skin dry, doesn't it?
Yeah, the skin is very dry. So I love the Clarins brand because I know the team and I know the founders, and I like this brand because it's very technology and the service of beautiful products.
Yes. And in terms of, do you have any sort of cleansers or moisturizers that you use every day? Any kind of skincare?
For the skincare, it's Clarins. And for the shower, I love to use now my own chantilly.
Oh, okay.
So I develop a chantilly of couleur primaire.
Right.
So it's a foam, but it's like chantilly of vanilla, but with couleur primaire inside.
Sounds good.
So it's a big foam perfume I love.
Yeah.
And we develop a hand soap.
Oh, have you?
Scrub, but I use for the shower because the scrub is nice for the skin.
What about on your hair to keep that sharp parting? Have you got a certain hair product?
The American is American Crew, yeah. And I use a wax and cream. Two I combine.
And obviously fragrance is a big one. I imagine as someone that needs to evaluate and check different fragrances, are you able to put on a fragrance in the morning, or do you leave it and wait till you get to the office so that you can be clean of fragrance? How do you approach fragrance?
Every day?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends if you're going to work or, if it was a normal morning, would you put fragrance on?
Yeah. Every day, every hours, I use a new perfume.
Yeah.
So I
tends to be from your own brand, or do you try other things?
Always. You've got sometimes Guerlain, because I love Guerlain.
Yeah.
Sometimes number 5 in my bed because I love the Eaux Primordiales.
You mentioned that, the Chanel number 5 being your favorite.
Chanel,
it's a classic.
Yeah. I love Shalimar and number 5.
Right, okay.
And I like to use number 5 in eau de perfume or Eau Première number 5 in my bed sheets.
Oh, wow. We talked a bit about the Primard. Is that the chateau that you have.
Ah, yeah.
The domaine, sorry.
Domaine.
Terrible. My French is awful. The domaine. So it would be great, because you talked about it this morning. You have a domaine that is, I guess, is the kind of atelier for the whole brand. Like everything happens there, which sounds, to me, just sounds like the most wonderful place where you can work on the brand and crafts people are there. How did that come about, that you effectively have a chateau for the brand?
In fact, it was a dream, an impossible dream.
Yeah.
Because I started my brand in my garage with all my economy. It was 5,000 euros.
Were you still in northern France then at the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I go to my father's house and I started my perfume in my garage. And after 5 years, the brand is growing a lot. And one day I had a chance to meet bankers and say, what is it's a big picture.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, if I dream big, my big dream will be to create a domain of perfume inspired by Chateau Petrus, a domain of, I don't know, it's a dream. So you can dream big.
Does domain translate literally as castle?
Castle,
Yeah.
Domain is like a place when you have a forest, a big park, and the chateau.
Got you.
Domain is all.
Oh, the whole,
Yeah, all park.
Domain.
All domain.
Makes sense. So you went to see the banker and he said, well, what's your dream?
What's your dream? And I explained my dream. I don't know, in 15 years or in 1 century.
Yeah. Before I die.
Yeah. It will be to have a domain at the service of my company.
Yeah.
And explain the perfume and make every perfume inside a beautiful place and receive people to make a tour. And he say, where is your castle? And I say, I have no castle.
In my mind.
In my mind. And he said, okay, maybe you can try to find one, a beautiful house, and I will help you to find investors. And
it's incredible.
Yeah, it was crazy. And
you met the right banker, because I could imagine having that conversation and most bankers saying, there's the door.
Yeah,
off you go.
His name was Fabrice Bouvier. Actually, he retired.
Right.
But he was crazy
and
unique. So on the evening, I came back at home and I go to Belle Demeure. So it's beautifulhouse.com.
Right.
And the first announce was a castle. I was not searching a castle at this moment, just a beautiful house.
Yeah.
And it was a castle in front of the house of my grandfather.
Wow.
And when I was young, we selling vegetables with my grandparents on the road. And he explained me all the story. And this castle of 2 centuries. And
you had quite a working background. It was you're not from some super rich background. Right?
No, I'm not very poor.
Yeah.
So my grandparents at 80 years sell vegetables on the street.
Yeah. Outside.
Oh, wow. And I have on my 4 grandparents, I have only one grandmother took 1 week in her life of holidays in Lourdes, in the south of France, to pray. So you can imagine. So in 10 years, I only take 1 week.
Really? Did you pray? So you looked at this website and this beautiful chateau and domain was there.
On YouTube, Les Eaux Primordiales, le domaine primordial, you will see the video of the domain.
So I'm going to put links to the website on the show notes so people can have a look. But ultimately, you were able, with the help of some investors, to purchase it.
So finally, the investors not help me. So
amazing.
I decided to try alone.
Yeah.
With no money, with no salary, with nothing. And I convinced the banker to give me money to invest.
You must be very persuasive. Oh no!
Yeah, it was very big for me because it's an investment of 1.5 million.
Wow!
And at this epoch, I have no money to pay a salary for me.
Yeah,
but I
you have an incredible.
Yeah, it's a my stars helped me.
Yeah, they must have done. And but I love the idea of, we're making light of the fact that there's this beautiful chateau, which is the case. But as I mentioned, it's not just a place for Arnaud to, stroll around or go shooting or fishing. It's a place of work, and there's employees there, but it's a place of artisanal craft. So you mentioned this morning, and
the
I guess
artisanal domain.
Yeah, it plays into all of your previous work experience, and that
we have a carpentry atelier.
Yeah, everything that goes into the product is made on site.
Yeah, so we fill every bottle there. We produce every perfume, every product are made in Le Château. And we also have a carpentry atelier to produce every tester stand, installation for grand magasin, for department store.
Yeah.
And if we open a shop, for sure, every furniture will be made, designed and made here.
Because you mentioned before that you love carpentry, you enjoy working with your hands and the practical side.
Yeah. Every weekend, I'm in my atelier and I'm creating table, I don't know, different thing.
It's amazing. And if people see the bottles of Les Eaux Primordiales, there's a very distinct design code, and the bottles are beautiful. But that's certainly inspired by architecture and furniture makers. That's very important to you, isn't it? The aesthetic side.
I like industrial shape. So I traveled to north of France and to Germany to see, to discover all the industrial buildings to Minecraft. And I designed my bottle of perfume like this, industrial shape. And so I like industrial architecture because everything is necessary.
Yeah.
It's primordial.
Yeah.
Every detail is primordial for the buildings and it's not for the aesthetics.
Aesthetics, exactly.
So I like industrial design.
Yeah. And it's you can definitely see that inspiration and quite different sort of design to Les Eaux Primordiales bottles. I always like to ask my guests on the podcast, about the name of the podcast being Man in the Mirror. And I wonder with you, what do you think about the man that when you're doing your morning shave or whatever, what do you think about the man that looks back at you in the mirror?
I'm proud of the way. I'm proud of the road, of the path.
The path that you're on.
A lot of things I did in the past. It's difficult to say that.
Yeah.
But I'm not satisfied. So the dream is big.
Yeah.
And
it looks like it. A lot to achieve.
A lot to achieve. So now we have Le Domaine. And last year I decided to found a group Primordial.
Right.
Primordial group, and to create different brands in this group. So last April, we launched a new brand, Perfumery Parfum.
Which is aimed at a slightly younger demographic.
Yeah. Less expensive, different approach, Gen Z, very fun.
Yeah, really colourful design.
Exactly. Yeah. Primordial is not fun. It's very serious.
Yeah, but
Serious and beautiful.
Yeah. And then you're going to launch a home fragrance brand later.
And the third brand is the House of Serenity. And I was inspired by a place in Le Domaine. There is a forest of 22 hectares. And inside this forest, you have a clairière of fougères.
Right.
A lot of fougères.
Yeah.
And a beautiful place. And it's a cabin.
Yeah.
In woods. And I name this place House of Serenity.
Right.
And I created a perfume for this cabin.
Right.
And I decided to create a brand. So there is a 4 collection, 4 season.
Yeah.
Because when you are in the cabin, you can see the summer, spring, etc. So I create 4 collection, 4 season. And it evokes me the best composer of favorite of my mother. It was Vivaldi.
Oh, really?
4 season.
Of course.
And I create the 4 season of the 4 perfume for the 4 season of Vivaldi.
Gosh, so much going on with the group now, so much ambition. I wonder if you ever have time to kind of take away from the business and recharge. What are the things that make you happy outside of the workplace?
I like old cars.
Do you?
Yeah. I'm mechanics, because,
Yeah, of course, the engineering side of you.
So
Do you have a book collection or?
Yeah. So a small collection, but my first was a Land Rover, old Land Rover, a Commando. So it's an old military.
Proper sort of utility vehicle.
Yeah, utility. The second is a Defender from Land Rover.
Right.
And the third is a Rolls Royce.
Really? Old one?
Old one. It's Silver Spirit. And I had the chance to bought a Rolls Royce. It was totally crazy, but like the castle, it's impossible to buy a Rolls Royce for normal people.
Yeah.
And I had no more money actually because I invest everything in my company. And one day, an old guy say, "You need a beautiful car for your domain.
It's domain, you do.
And I will give you my Rolls Royce. And if you like, I will give you a good price."
Did it need lots of work doing to it? Is it in good condition?
Yeah, very, very perfect condition.
Was it?
But in fact, old Rolls Royce is not very expensive. It's around 15,000, so it's expensive, but it's not for all because the entretien, I don't know, the techniques is expensive.
Yeah.
But I studied in mechanics, so I can do.
So you can do the work yourself. Sounds remarkable. I can have a vision of you, driving around the domain and the estate in your classic Rolls Royce, and it sounds idyllic.
And when we invite customer, they came from Paris or from London to Lille or to Arras train station, and we go in the Rolls Royce to collect
your chauffeur's hat.
So in fact, group Domaine Primordial is like my Walt Disney.
Yeah. So can customers, is it open to the public in any way? Like, can people come and see what you're doing?
Yeah, we can plan a visit, not every day, but...
because it's a working place.
But many journalists came, the buyers of Harrods came.
Yeah. It must be a great way for people to understand the brand and your vision, just to see it in action at the domain. Yeah,
it's not my personal ambition to buy a castle. I'm not attracted by luxury. I like the best tools for my brand. So it's tools at the service of my team.
Yeah.
So when you are producing, you are filling a bottle. It's a long way. It's a long day. And when you are in a beautiful place and you can a view of trees, it's magical.
Sounds perfect. I think you just have this incredible combination of, as you've told me in the podcast here, the sort of the engineering, the sort of technical, the scientific background, combined with being a dreamer and a creative, and those things together have created something really powerful. It's been such a pleasure to chat to you and find out a bit more about the brand. I really appreciate you taking time.
Thank you very much.
I know you guys are going back to France this afternoon, so thank you for doing this. And I'm, as I mentioned, I will put links to some of the products, and so that people can see the domain in the program notes. But for now, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
My thanks to Arnaud, and I'm sure you'll agree, he's managed to fit so much into the last 8 or 9 years with Les Eaux Primordiales as a brand. And as he said himself, he seems to be working 3 times as hard as everyone else. And my goodness, it shows. Yeah, there's 4 distinct ranges in Les Eaux Primordiales line. There's Super Classique, Super Critique, Super Fluid, and now Supermassive. And as he mentioned, the Ambre Supermassive is an exclusive at Harrods, which is why we were there in store last week. And you can find the rest of the range there at Harrods and also on the website, which is leseauxprimordiales.com. And that's, I'll spell that for you. That's LESEAUXPRIMORDIALES, leseauxprimordiales.com. And it's the same on Instagram at Les Eaux Primordiales. And I'm sure I'm butchering it with my accent, but Primordial Waters here in English and Les Eaux Primordiales. And yeah, it was fascinating to hear from Arnaud. And I said that combination that he has, I think, is almost unique. And the way he works with Amelie Bourgeois, the perfumer, but it's not, his role is not just to be the person to check it at the end and be the sort of evaluator and the brand founder or as I think I said in the conversation, you often have that role of the person who ultimately makes the decision. But Arnaud is a perfumer as well, so he's working closely with Amelie on the fragrance side and actually creating them, which I think, it's certainly very special and quite unique. And the more I find out about him and the brand, I find it really, really interesting. And there's actually more on the way. He was talking to me just off mic about another brand that's launched earlier this year, aimed at a slightly younger audience, called Perroy. He's working on a home fragrance brand that's coming later in the year as well. So I don't know, honestly, when he finds time to sleep or rest up, but doing incredible things in the fragrance world. And I really enjoyed that conversation. So please do check them out on the website, or if you're ever in central London, in the Harrods store, and of course on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at Man in the Mirror Pod. And I'm also at You Smell Great, What Is It?, which is a bit more sort of fragrance leaning as an account. I also have a coffee account, which is ko-fi.com/Man in the Mirror. And that's a tipping service. So if you've enjoyed the content today, it would be amazing if you might put a tip on the coffee account. And as always, to be transparent, that goes towards the running costs of paying my editor and paying the services that I have to pay each month to distribute and to record the podcast. So any help would be really gratefully received. So it's ko-fi.com/Man in the Mirror. So that's almost it for me today. It just remains for me to thank Arnaud again. I hope to see him again soon. Really enjoyed that conversation, and I hope you did. Please comment on social media and let me know what you thought of it. And if you want to DM, look, I read everything and I appreciate any correspondence. Thank you for all the comments on the podcast. I'm so glad you're enjoying this season. So thanks to Arnaud. Thanks to you, as always, for listening. And I'll see you next time on Man in the Mirror. Until then, take care.